77% of Americans owe someone money right now. Most of them think they know what kind of debt they're in. They don't. There are 8 tiers of debt. Some build wealth. Some build prisons. And most people never escape the one they're standing in. Most people think debt is one thing. Money you owe someone on a schedule until it's gone. They're wrong. Debt has tiers. Real tiers with real boundaries. Each one charges you differently. Each one ends differently. Some compound at 4%. Others at 400. Some are written into a contract you sign. Others are written into the country you were born in. Each tier has its own math, its own predator, its own escape, if there is one. And the tier most Americans are trapped in isn't the one they think. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly which tier you're in and which ones the wealthy actually use on purpose. This is every level of debt explained. Tier 1, productive debt. The only debt wealthy families choose to keep. Rates below 7%. Secured against something that out-earns the loan itself. A 30-year mortgage on a property that appreciates 4% a year. A business loan against a profit and loss that grows faster than the interest. A student loan into a degree that doubles your lifetime income. This is the only tier where the math works for you, not against you. Here is what most people get wrong about it. The wealthy do not pay it off early. Not when rates are below inflation. Not when their investments out-earn the cost of carrying the loan. They invest the spread instead. Every dollar parked in a 4% mortgage frees a dollar to compound at 8% in the market. On a $300,000 mortgage at 6.5% against an investment portfolio returning 8%, that spread is worth roughly $66,000 over the life of the loan. Over 30 years, that gap pays for a second retirement. Most middle-class households flip this on its head. They sprint to be debt-free. They sleep better, they save less, they retire poorer. That is not financial safety. That is leaving money on the table for 30 years. But productive debt has a twin. Same paperwork, same handshake, opposite physics. Tier 2, lifestyle debt. Rates between 5 and 15%. Secured against assets that depreciate the moment you sign. The new car, the leased SUV, the financed appliance. It feels productive. You need a car for work. You deserve the trip. But the math goes the other way. The average new car in America now finances at 7 to 9%. It loses 20% of its value the day you drive it off the lot. You are paying interest on something that is actively shrinking. That is the definition of negative leverage. Tier 2 is where most American households actually live. 2 car loans, a small balance on the card, maybe a personal loan. The average American household with auto debt now owes more than $24,000 across their vehicles. Roughly 1 in 12 auto loans in this country is already 90 days delinquent. Nothing dramatic, nothing predatory. Just a quiet stream of monthly payments going to depreciating things. And here is the trap of Tier 2. It does not feel like a trap. It feels like adulthood. Until you realize you have been renting your own life back from a bank. The problem isn't the car. It is what comes next. When the math finally turns against you. Tier 3, revolving debt. The credit card balance you carry from month to month. Average APR in late 2025, 21.47%. That is the highest sustained rate in 40 years of Federal Reserve data. And here is the trick the banks count on. Most cards ask for a minimum payment of 2 to 3% of the balance. It feels manageable, it looks fair. It is designed to keep you paying forever. Watch what happens on a $5,000 balance at 21% APR when you pay only the minimum the card statement asks for. This is the slow lane the bank is quietly hoping you take. Paying the minimum you finish in 25 years. And you pay $9,400 in interest on a $5,000 charge. The card company doubles its money, then doubles it again. Most Americans never run the numbers. They see the minimum payment. They send the minimum payment. They feel responsible. They are paying rent on their past selves. And every new charge resets the clock. Tier 3 is the first tier where the system is not on your side. Now we leave the visible debt. The next tier does not show up on a credit report until it is already too late. Tier 4, buy now, pay later. 0% APR up front, hidden fees underneath. Klarna, Afterpay, Affirm, Sezzle, now offered at checkout for almost every online purchase in the United States. Here is what makes Tier 4 different from everything before it. It does not feel like debt. You don't sign a credit application, you don't get a card. You just tap 4 easy payments and forget. That is the entire psychology of the product. And it works. Users of BNPL services spend up to 40% more per transaction than card users. Most are under 35. Most have multiple BNPL plans running at the same time. They have no idea what their total balance is because no single statement adds them up. The average active BNPL user in the United States now carries 3 or more plans at the same time across different apps. The total balance can exceed $2,000 before any of it shows up on a traditional credit report. That is by design. Miss one payment and Tier 4 turns on you. Late fees that compound, credit reporting that finally kicks in, collections in 90 days. The debt that didn't feel like debt becomes the worst kind there is. And once invisible debt fails, predators are waiting. This is where the system stops being neutral. Tier 5, predatory debt. Payday loans, subprime auto, title loans. Built to extract, not to lend. Look at the math next to every other kind of debt in this country. Mortgages around 7, new auto loans 9, credit cards 21, subprime auto 18, and payday at 391% annualized. 391%. That is the average annualized rate on a payday loan in America. On a $400 loan, that is $100 paid back in 6 months. And the loan is engineered around one fact. You almost certainly cannot pay it back on time, so you roll it over. Then again. 80% of payday borrowers reborrow within 14 days. That is not a loan, that is a subscription. 12 million Americans use payday loans every year. They collectively pay an estimated $9 billion in fees, on top of the principal they were already trying to cover. Most are working people, most have jobs, most have bank accounts. They are not financially illiterate. They are out of options. That is what Tier 5 actually preys on, not stupidity, the exhaustion. Predatory lenders need your consent. The next tier doesn't. It just happens to you. Tier 6, medical debt. The only debt in America that arrives without your signature. You don't shop for it. You don't see a price tag. You don't sign a contract. You get sick, you get a bill, sometimes months later. The scale of Tier 6 is bigger than most Americans realize, and it does not fall evenly. Look at who actually carries this debt across the country. By income, by race, by family status. 41% of US adults carry some form of medical debt today. That is roughly 100 million people. Total balance, $220 billion. And it disproportionately falls on the people who can least absorb it. households under $40,000 in income, parents of young children, the uninsured, the underinsured. Here is what almost no one tells you about Tier 6. Medical debt is the leading cause of personal bankruptcy in the United States. Not credit cards, not mortgages, not student loans, hospitals. And the system around it is built to keep you confused. Codes you can't read, charges you can't compare, bills from providers you've never met. Most Americans just pay it, or they don't, and let it go to collections. Tier 6 doesn't ask if you can afford it, it just arrives. But the lender most willing to destroy you isn't a hospital or a payday store. It is the one you forget exists. Tier 7, tax debt. The debt you owe the federal government and forget about until it owns you back. Late on a tax return, under withheld, self-employed and behind on quarterly estimates. Roughly 11 million Americans currently owe the IRS. And here is what makes Tier 7 different from every other lender. The IRS does not negotiate first. It just starts charging interest, penalties, and fees that stack on each other. Look at how the failure to pay penalty compounds month after month with no warning calls and no negotiation until it finally reaches the federal cap. 0.5% of the unpaid balance every month, plus interest, plus a failure to file penalty if you skip that too. Caps at 25% of the original balance. A $10,000 tax bill becomes $12,500. Automatically, no phone call required. Then the real tools come out. Wage garnishment, bank account levies, federal tax lines on your home. And the IRS does not need a court order to do any of it. It is the only lender in America that can take your paycheck directly. And the most common reason people end up here isn't fraud. It is silence. They stopped opening the envelopes. And then there is the debt you never signed for. The one that was already there. The day you were born. Tier 8, generational debt. This is not a dollar amount. It is a starting position. The debt of where you began the race. No inheritance, no down payment help, no credit buffer for one bad month. No phone call to the family lawyer when something goes wrong. The U.S. Federal Reserve measures household wealth across the country every 3 years. The picture it paints of where Americans actually stand looks like this. And the gap between the floors and the top is not what most people imagine. Bottom quartile of U.S. households. Median net worth, $3,500. Top decile, $2.65 million. That gap is not luck, it is structure. The wealth above you compounds, the debt around you compounds too. And here is the part most financial advice never says out loud. Climbing Tier 8 is not a budget problem. It is a generational physics problem. It takes 20 to 30 years of disciplined choices to undo one missing inheritance. Over the next 20 years, an estimated $84 trillion will pass between generations in the United States. Roughly 90% of it will move within the top 10% of households. And every other tier of debt makes that climb harder. A predatory loan in Tier 5 costs a Tier 8 household a decade of progress. A medical bill in Tier 6 can erase a generation of saving. Tier 8 isn't where you fall. It is where the math started before you ever began. And it is the one tier most Americans will never fully escape. Because escaping it requires more than choices. It requires time, capital, and a system that was not built for it. In the first episode, we ranked every tier of wealth. Now you have seen every tier of debt, and which one most Americans will never escape. Notice something? Tier 1 wealth and Tier 8 debt are the same people. The latter runs both directions. And the ones who climb it start by knowing one thing. How the bank actually sees them. Next time on the money tier, every tier of credit score and what the system really knows about you. Subscribe. Where do you stand?